Hello there. It's Thursday, the 5th of March, and on today's Totally Football Show, we got Jack Lang, Art de Roché, and Duncan Alexander in to look at Wednesday's results, some of which look particularly significant for the Premier League title race. Here are some of our thoughts. Well, there at the Amex was Art de Roché. Well, that must have been quite a moment at the end when the news came through on the many transistor radios.
Yeah, it was amazing. To be fair, it was the loudest cheer of the night. Louder than when Bukayo Saka scored, louder when their own full-time whistle actually went too. And it was actually how I found out the Manchester City result. We hadn't even seen, I guess, the notifications come through on our phones, on our laptops, and it's also how Arteta and his players found out. So I think it's a memory that a lot of, I guess, people associated with Arsenal will cherish for a while, because it's such an unusual thing to happen in a day and age where everyone knows what's going on all the time.
The way you're talking, Art, sounds like you think Arsenal have just won the title.
No, I'm not going to go that far just yet, because I also remember the 2011-12 season where I believe it was with maybe 6 games to go. Manchester United were 8 points ahead and lost it on goal difference. So I'm not going to go that far, but it was a major, I guess, momentum swing that could help Arsenal.
Okay. The game itself, 1-0 to the Arsenal, but a performance that perhaps even George Graham would have found a bit of a slog.
If I'm being totally honest, I felt like it became more entertaining the longer it went on.
Right. What?
Because of the way Fabian Hurzeler had built up the game, it just felt like it was an event more than a football match. And in terms of the Premier League, I feel like it probably needed something like that in terms of actually giving this title race a moment, because for too long it has felt like a slog for Arsenal. And this actually gave them, I feel like, more purpose to go to Brighton and really act as the villains that they were painted out to be.
What had he done ahead of the game?
Basically, he'd spoken about the amount of time that Arsenal take over set pieces, whether it's throw-ins, goal kicks, free kicks. Also, he spoke about their, I guess, methods at corners, blocking and that sort of thing. So going into the game, I mean, the whole stadium was aware of what was going on. He'd really done a good job of letting his fans know what to look out for. So whenever Arsenal had a throw-in, which they had a lot in the first half, the boos just kept getting louder and louder. But to be honest, it felt like that actually worked in Arsenal's favour. They used it. Brighton's fans got more frustrated as the game went on, not just with Arsenal, but with their own players, because their players would try and speed the game up, but would make mistakes. I mean, there was a moment where Brighton try and take a quick free kick, their player hits it into a teammate, and it falls straight back to Arsenal. So
why would Arsenal do that?
Funny. I mean, it was just, an insane way for the game to go, but I think a really, really funny one.
Hurzeler's got a lot of stick for his post-game comments, which fall a bit short of kind of well-measured and sporting. I will never be the type of manager who tries to win that way. Arsenal are doing their own rules. But that does sound a little bit like good management to shape the battleground, as it were.
Yeah.
And also the team, Brighton, didn't play badly, apart from the finishing, which not really his fault, I guess.
No. I feel like when you're looking at his post-match, he also said that if Arsenal do win the league, nobody's going to ask how they won it. So he knows the game. I think he just wants to be quite front-footed in what perception people have of what happened.
But I think people have forgotten how football works in a lot of ways. Because,
I certainly have.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. When Brighton got promoted to the Premier League, they had Chris Hughton as manager, and they played some of the most stodgy defensive football because they knew they had to just stay up, and then they can then build, and now they've become a better footballing team.
But there's an allowance if you're in that position.
Yeah, but Arsenal haven't won the league for 22 years, and we've seen what's happened in the last few seasons. They're desperate to get across the line. We can see they're nervous at points, but you can't blame them for grinding out wins. Yeah. And last night was they won 1-0 in not a classic, but then City drew 2-2. And a few weeks ago when Arsenal drew 2-2 at Wolves, that was, the biggest implosion ever seen yet. It's not really the same sense I'm getting from the City result.
Are City bottling it, Duncan?
Maybe.
All right.
I think this Hurzeler stuff is great, just because there's been this low hum of journalists and pundits being a bit sniffy about Arsenal, and fair enough. I think they're not my favourite team to watch play, but then not many managers or actual names have broken cover.
Right.
Like you've got Arne Slot, but he's kind of moaning about everything because he's in his own like personal hell. But for Hurzeler to get involved, be like, this is the wrong way to play football. Like it came very close to like, we did not resort to that, like old school Premier League theatrics. And that's great for everyone because it's putting voice to what a lot of people are thinking. But it's also great for Arsenal because they get this massive like backs against the walls, like we're doing it.
They've still got to go
critics.
to Middlesbrough and get something. They actually don't.
It's absolutely great all round. Love it.
I also think when you look at Arteta's response in his press conference, oftentimes he will stay away from any controversy involving another manager. I guess most recent example is Liam Rossini after the warm-up gate, if we want to call it that, in the Carabao Cup last month. But last night, even though he was quite short with his answers, he did also say, basically, take a look at Hurzeler's comments whenever Arsenal play Brighton.
Well, that doesn't mean that Hurzeler's wrong.
It doesn't mean he's wrong, but what I took it as is it's nice to see that needle between managers because we haven't really seen it. Whenever Arteta's asked about Pep, they're always very friendly. It was the same when Pep and Klopp were going at each other for the Premier League. So I feel like when you're looking at title races and moments, it's nice to have a bit of edge. Like, I guess
It's a pretty thin edge, though.
it is, but
It's the edge
more
we've
than
got,
we've had.
It's
in recent
Gen
years.
Z edge, but it's fair. I mean, to be honest, when Hurzeler joined Brighton, we were told this was the sort of manager he was, and he did this quite a lot. We haven't really seen that much of it, but it is, you're right, it's fun, and it adds another little element to this definitely fun season.
One Arsenal player who's not taking his time to reach 300 games at least is Bukayo Saka. He's only 24.
Yeah, only 24. September birthday as well. So he's one that kind of has the same age for most of the season, which is actually quite nice from a writing perspective. But yeah, when you, I guess, look at his goal yesterday, I think it was a 0.01 XG.
Seriously?
Yeah. And Arsenal's only shot at the first half.
Exactly. But what I liked about it was oftentimes this season it's felt like sometimes he got the ball on the right wing and he'll kind of just weigh up his options before doing something. When he got the ball in that position, he just went for that space inside and took a shot on. And in moments, you need someone to just take initiative, and he did that. I think that's what he done when he first broke into the team. He's been able to replicate that season on season. He's had maybe fewer goals and assists this year, but he's still a player that Arsenal can rely on, and I think last night showed that, and it was a nice moment. I think he was the first person Arteta told the result, and he was like, really? So his disbelief was quite nice to see, and of course, he's recently signed a new contract with Arsenal, so for him to be the guy to step up, not just at Brighton, but with the first goal at Wolves as well, I think is quite a nice way for the past few weeks to have gone.
All right. Well, the disbelief based on the fact that City, ahead of their game with Forest, had won 6 straight. Forest had lost both of their games under their new manager, Vitor Pereira, in the Premier League. City had Erling Haaland back, and it all looked like the game at the Etihad was going to be a bit of a foregone conclusion. It wasn't, though. Mark Carey, welcome to today's Totally Football show. You were just saying that you and Art have differing views on the Elliot Anderson equaliser.
We both definitely agree on the quality of the goal. Really thumped into the bottom corner. It was a really nice 1-2. I think it was Callum Hudson-Odoi that he sort of bounced it off, and it was very much a pass with a message to say, you are giving this back to me immediately. I'm going to get it out of my feet and slot it into the bottom corner. I just thought it was Steven Gerrard-esque in its design a little bit, which he used to do that quite a lot, is that the pass had a message on it, and he obviously used to shoot with conviction. It's not that you disagreed, was it, Art? It's just more that aesthetically you think of a Gerrard goal as more maybe on the right side of the pitch, and it was very much outside of the foot with to start the 1-2 from the left side of the pitch before curling it into the bottom right.
Right. Again, as Needle, it's not really.
I know, yeah. It probably speaks to how much me and Art disagree. The thing about the Morgan Gibbs-White one was that he was sort of pivoting at the same time. It wasn't that the ball was static. He said in the interview after, he was just improvising, which he very much had to do at that point. think it went through Ruben Diaz's legs, and Donnarumma didn't know what was going on. It was a fantastic piece of ingenuity as much as anything.
And I loved his celebration as well.
Yeah.
Caught up in the madness. So City had taken the lead with Semenyo notching up his 7th goal in 12 matches as a Man City player. What a season he's having. 17 now for this Premier League campaign. Then the Morgan Gibbs-White equaliser. Then Rodri restored City's lead in muscular fashion. And
From
then
a corner. Is that allowed?
From a corner.
Just checking.
And then Elliot Anderson. And it remained 2-2 to the death. Well past those 8 minutes that were notionally added on, City was still pressing. And that incredible melee.
Yeah, I was watching this live and I got a bit confused because there was so much of the melee and the chaos that it seemed like no one was really trying to snatch at the shot with too much kind of vigour. And I thought the whistle had gone because it just seemed like it was just sort of playing its way out. And I thought if a Manchester City player knew that the ball was still live, if you like, they would have shot with a bit more conviction.
Somebody did, but Jason Murillo comes screaming across, almost like one of those table football sliders, you know.
Yeah, it was. I think it was one of the pundits said after the game that actually, if you can't affect the game in terms of making a challenge, then how could he affect the game? And it was just by getting onto the goal line, which he did excellently. He did that quite a lot last season as well, in terms of just kind of thinking pessimistically, how can I at least do something if I can't get to the ball? And that's pretty much the last kick of the game.
So it's no longer in City's hands, Mark.
No longer in City's hands. I thought, I wrote it in the briefing that we did after the game that aesthetically, City were as good as I've seen them for a long time, especially the first half. They were just popping it about, rotating excellently. It was each of the midfielders were just taking it in turns to just drop between the centre-backs and make sure that they built up. And it was just Nottingham Forest frustrating City as much as they could, but City found an answer with the Semenyo opener. And you thought that they're not really, if things stay as they are, then City are going to kind of walk to a victory here. And it played out, and again I wrote this in the briefing, that it played out like so many other patterns do with these sorts of games, where it's just total domination from the leading team, total underdog football from the other team, yet still they managed to score a couple of goals, and it was very much making the most of their chances. I don't know why it plays out like this so often.
But it often does with Arsenal.
Arsenal, another example, with Wolves as well, the way that it did. I don't know if it's just taking your foot off the gas a little bit too much, or
bottling. I think that's what it's called, isn't it?
Yeah, I really don't know. But aesthetically, City were very good, but they just bottled it at the end.
At the risk of sparking another very polite debate, I thought that was such a penalty on Haaland.
You did?
Yeah, completely. Because took a touch, and you don't. So he took a touch that was at a different angle to the one he was running. Your body doesn't immediately adjust and go that way. He had to take a couple more steps, and so just collapses into it.
His touch was probably a little bit heavy. He then runs into the keeper's hands instead of chasing the ball, which possibly he's
characterise that slightly differently.
Would you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Would you say it's a striker being cute, as they often say?
Definitely.
To play for the contact.
He wanted it. Yeah. He wanted it, and he got it. Sales clattered into him.
I don't.
Simple as
I
that for me.
don't tend to like that. Even if it was a penalty or not, I don't tend to like those ones where it's quite obvious that you're kicking the ball out, but you are trying to make contact as quickly as possible.
Like it either.
What a night for Forest, Mark, because when they were 2-1 down, West Ham were busy winning at Fulham, and they dropped into the bottom three.
Yeah, the narrative with Nottingham Forest has been, are they too good to go down if you look at their individual players? Morgan Gibbs-White and Elliot Anderson, 2 goal scorers, are the 2 main examples of that. They have still got some real quality in the side. You thought they might have had a bit of a bounce when Pereira comes in, as is often the case. They didn't. Maybe this is kind of the beginning of a bump rather than a bounce, that they can use the foundations of broadly that performance and the confidence to take it into the next few games. But it does feel, again, aesthetically, that they are maybe too good to go down. But it's so tight at the bottom that you just can't tell.
Just goal difference at the moment. So he will have a bit of time to work with the players, though, through this FA Cup weekend. As for City, 7 points now behind Arsenal. They do have a game in hand, and they do have the clash at the Etihad coming up. But I note that the Opta supercomputer gives Arsenal a 93% chance of winning the title. Duncan, you've worked at Opta. Is there a big room with people in white coats servicing with rolls of paper, a giant...
No, it's a very modern supercomputer.
Is it actually a supercomputer?
Yeah, it's the size of I don't know, block of cheese, maybe.
You titled it the supercomputer.
Yeah, I
didn't you?
christened it the supercomputer, and that word is it's in the latest Arctic Monkeys song, so I'm taking some credit for that. But
what differentiates it from your common or garden computer?
it's sentient. It's it's a very powerful machine.
Okay.
But it simulates the remaining fixtures.
Built-in printer.
Has it got that?
Dot matrix. yeah. It's got a 500 megabyte memory upgrade as well. It's honestly it's cutting edge. But yeah, no, it simulates the remaining games 10,000 times, and
10,000.
In 93% of those outcomes, Arsenal win the league.
Wow. What does it come up with for the relegation battle, which is oh so tight now? As I mentioned, Spurs, who have that game Thursday night tonight, as we record against Crystal Palace, only a point above Forest and West Ham.
When Wolves, didn't they go from 100% likelihood of relegation to, I want to say 99.8%
On Tuesday?
On Tuesday.
Yeah,
Really?
They were 0.3 after Tuesday's games. They're now 0.1 chance
Really?
of staying up. But yeah, Spurs now up to 8%. Forest on 30%. West Ham on 53%, which I think's. I mean, I would.
Where's
never,
the other percentage gone? That doesn't add up to 100.
Well,
surely.
they're Leeds as well. Leeds can go down.
Okay,
So
yeah.
there's,
What are they on?
They're on 9%.
Oh,
So, and Crystal Palace are on 0.7%. Even Brighton and Sunderland have a slight chance.
so Leeds are on a bigger percentage likelihood of going down than Spurs, even though Leeds are above them in the table.
Yes, but I have seen the supercomputer wearing a Paul Gascoigne 1990 Spurs shirt, so it might have an inbuilt bias.
Mark, was there anything else you wanted to add about the evening at the Etihad?
No, not too much really. I just, as I say, I was impressed with City's ability to control the performance as much as anything. They were sucker punched. They have had issues with conceding on transitional moments. But it's one of those, if they do carry on playing like that for the rest of the season, they will win more often than not, maybe even against Arsenal. We don't know.
All right. Mark, thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Duncan, thank you so much for today. Many thanks to you, to Art, to Jack, to Jake, and producer Charlie in the booth, and yourself, listener. Catch up with you soon. For now, from all of us here, it's goodbye. The Totally Football Show podcast is available 3 times a week, bringing you all the football news you could reasonably be expected to care about. We've got views, we've got stats, we've got analysis, we've got some of the best football writers around, and the whole thing is absolutely free. So have a listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or all the usual places by clicking on the link below.